With the AFL season fast approaching, it is that time of year where we get our predictions in. So I thought I would bring in some of the best footy minds across the internet, some AFL YouTubers and AFL content creators to predict the 2023 AFL season. I have Jesse from True Footy, all the way from WA. Jesse, how are you, mate?
Very good, mate. Thanks for having me. Very excited that the season's about to kick off, so keen to get into it.
Mate, it's so lucky that we've got you. We've also got Jake from Saints TV. Jake, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How you going?
Going well. I'm very excited. Keen to, get into the predictions in a second. We got Terry from Blue Abroad. Terry, how's things, mate?
Mate, things are good. I'm up and about. You know what it's like this time of year to be a Carlton supporter. Full of hope.
Lots of optimism. I love it. And last but not least, the great man, Connor Rogers. Rogie, how's things, mate?
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Keen to make myself look like an absolute idiot and look back in this in about 9 months' time and see how much I got wrong.
That's part and parcel with the predictions, Rogie. Sometimes you do look silly, but sometimes you look like an absolute genius. So let's rip into it, lads. The first prediction we're going to do is the Premier, the runner-up, and the AFL Grand Final entertainment. Jake, I reckon you have the new ball. You kick things off.
Yeah, no pressure, no pressure. You'll like this one, mate. You'll like this one. I've gone Premiers Melbourne. I saw them firsthand last week. They look good. You've got Grundy, Lockie Hunter, your forward line's buzzing, your back line's the best in the business. They're going to win it against Brisbane, runners-up.
Wow.
And Grand Final entertainment. I don't know if this is going to reflect badly on me, but I've done a bit of research and I've looked at who's touring around the country when that happens.
Great insight.
And I know we like the Australian musicians. I know that this guy's going to be around the week before at Rod Laver, and that guy is Keith Urban. So I reckon the AFL might be in his ear. He's going to be there the week before. He's already in the country. Just get him down the road for the footy, and I reckon he's a chance.
Jeez, Keith Urban, that would be unbelievable. Some great predictions there as well. I'm happy with the D selection. Harry, what about yourself? Who have you got for the flag, the runner-up, and then the entertainment?
So Jake and I are aligned completely. I've got the D's to beat the Lions as well.
Keith Urban as well.
Not Keith Urban.
That's specific.
I didn't go that far down the rabbit hole and research who was available, but I did see that Drake was looking to wrap things up. So I think before he wraps things up, we're going to try and get him down for a grand final appearance.
I think the AFL have to take that next step. I think it's got to be a hip-hop act. How good was the Super Bowl the other year with Eminem and Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg? I think a hip-hop act, Drake, that would be just absolutely colossal. Rogie, what have you got for us?
So we're 3 for 3, boys. It's D's to beat the Lions in the big dance. It's already set in stone. It's written in the stars, obviously. I've got something a little bit more traditional than the boys with the entertainment though. We've gone from country to pop, now we're sticking to rock. It's a formula that's worked. We've had the Killers, had Robbie Williams pump it, so I reckon it's going to be the Kings of Leon, my boys, are going to take control as the D's win the flag over the line.
That's a great selection. That would just absolutely lift the roof off the MCG if the Kings of Leon got their chance. Jesse, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this question a lot, and for most of the pre-season, it's mostly been, who is going to be West Coast's opponent in the grand final. But after seeing the pre-season, I've actually got, this will please two of you sort of, Caden, your D's will beat Terry's Blues in the grand final. That's
we're in.
bold
The
prediction.
D's are in. The D's are in.
That's and you definitely didn't pay us all to say Melbourne for sure. My entertainment, that will be, it's going to be a win for Western Australia here. I'm going with Tame Impala. It's got to happen.
Oh, that has to happen. That would be unbelievable. Lads, I've gone with the Lions as well, but we can't go past last year's Premier. The Geelong Cats, everyone knows they're one of my favourite teams. Grew up in Geelong. So I feel like the Cats, it would be a disastrous season for them if they can't go back-to-back. It would be a complete fail. They've got such a good list that I just have to back them in. So it's the Lions and the Cats. And for me, I've just gone to his concert on the weekend. It's Harry Styles. It's Harry Styles at halftime. I think he would just put on an absolute clinic. And I think the Lions probably get it done for me in the grand final. What are your thoughts on my selections there?
Gee, I don't know how much money the AFL's got in the back pocket, but if they can fork out for Harry Styles, then Jesus, Gillen has done a good job.
He's got to come back. MCG, he's born for it. Lads, let's move on to the Brownlow, the Coleman, and the Rising Star. Rog, why don't you kick things off with this? What have you got?
So for the Brownlow, it was a big story last year after Cripper won the Brownlow. That was all three of the ball magnets, Lockie Neal, Todd Mitchell, Paddy Cripps. And I reckon this year, it's been a long time since we've had a tie. It's going to be a three-way tie between Neal, Mitchell, Cripper, and all the ball magnets are going to show their work.
Think of the content. That would be unbelievable.
And while we're on the subject of sort of a tied event, the Coleman medal, Charlie Curnow won it last year, Harry Mackay won it the year before. Are they going to take goals off each other? No, they're not. They're both going to take each other to the promised land. It's going to be a tied Coleman medal. Mackay and Charlie absolutely level on 100.
Have we ever had a tied Coleman?
I don't think so, which is surprising. My rising star, love him to bits, the Shees knees, Harry Sheasel. He's going to play every game for North Melbourne, forward flank, midfield, class, goals, clearances, he has it all.
He is a class act. Jesse, who have you got for the Brownlow, the Coleman, and the Rising Star?
Well, every year I tip a tie, and it never happens, but I'm quadrupling down on that this year. And I'm going to say a couple of players that haven't won one yet, but sort of will get it to legitimise their legacy. I'm saying it's time for Bontempelli and Clayton Oliver. They'll tie the Brownlow. I think that would be a great result.
Jeez.
Yeah, that would be exciting.
It's the year of the ties.
Yeah. Jeremy Cameron will take home the Coleman. Geelong are just going to be bloody good. He's still in the prime of his career. And I thought everyone was going to go Ashcroft, and I'm going to go with Sheasel, actually, as my rising star. Big fan of him. Bit of a Stevie J type. Can play through the midfield as well. Earn enough possessions to get a lot of attention. So Sheasel it is.
Harry Sheasel, I don't know if you saw in his draft year, but he kicks goals out of his behind. Like, he kicks them from absolutely anywhere. So that is a great selection by both you lads. Terry, what are your thoughts? Who are you predicting?
So I'm not going to go with the tie, but I do think it's time for Clary. I think this is the year for Clary, and that'll tie into the D's winning the flag. Charlie's going to do it again for me. I think he can go up another level from what he did last year, given this is now his, touch wood, second full pre-season in a row. So he's ready to go up another level. And then there's a kid who we almost drafted, but unfortunately the Saints swooped in before us. I'm a big fan of Mateus, young Mateus Philippou for the Rising Star.
Good call, Terry. Best call so far.
What about him, Jake? What about him so exciting?
It's his, firstly, his confidence. Like, he backs himself. Everyone knows he's probably the most confident in that top 10. He's got the size already. He's got the left foot, so he can play midfield, but he can drift forward and be a problem. And he did that against the D's last week. You know, the club, we were a bit poor overall, but he was still a standout. And he's going to get a lot of games. He's going to play easily 10, 15, maybe even more this year, which is going to put him in a position to win it, I reckon.
Yeah, and Ross loves him. Ross absolutely loves him as well. So that's really exciting. Jake, who have you got for the Brownlow, the Coleman, and the Rising Star?
Yeah, it's a bit different. No tie. I've got someone that had a chance last year, and I reckon he's going to go up again, and that's Tuke Miller. I really rate him. I think he's just going to get votes every week. He's a workhorse. He gets the ball, uses it well, and I reckon the Gold Coast are going to be a surprise. I've got Harry Mackay as the Coleman. I think he's just going to kick a lot of goals. Even with Charlie kicking goals, I think it's got to be either of them, but I reckon Harry's going to be in for a 65, 70 goal year. So Terry's going to love me saying that. And yeah, I've got Mateus Philippou as the rising star. I reckon he's the maturest of the top 10. He's going to come in and he's going to kick. He's going to kick. I reckon he can get 20 goals, 15 plus games. It's high hopes for a young kid, but I reckon he's got it.
Yeah, he's got the swagger for sure. I'm going with Tuke Miller for the Brownlow. His rig is ridiculous.
Just for that alone. Just for the rig.
The photos is absolutely absurd. I go down to Body Fit 2 or 3 times a week and I can't get a rig like that. So he's just an absolute animal. I think Charlie Curnow is going to kick 100 goals, and I'm not even kidding. Like, I think he was in 3rd gear last year and he won the Coleman by a long, long way. So I think he's going to get to the ton. He'll raise the bat. And then Jesse, I think there's a man at your club. Jai Cully is apparently training the house down. He's got dreadlocks. He'll be through the midfield. I think he's going to take out the Rising Star. What do you think about him?
Mate, it's a big call. Yeah, I think, as you say, I think he was second in the time trial for a guy that's 6'4" and a big clunking sort of midfielder who can play forward. So we're optimistic. He'll probably play round 1. It's not a bad shout. I still prefer Sheasel, but I hope you're right, mate.
Yeah, I hope I'm right too. I love a good a dreadlock sort of operator running around. I'm going to kick things off with the wooden spoon, and I'm going to say it's the Giants. I love the Cadman, and he's going to kick bags for fun. And I think, they'll battle their way throughout the season, but I just think they're in a bit of a phase where they're regrouping, they're rebuilding, and I'm going to have them finish last. Terry, who have you got for the wooden spoon?
I had the Giants as well, but I'm very careful in saying that because I know we've got them early in the season and they'll be up and about, and I know all too well what a round 4 away game looks like. So I will say the Giants, but I'll try and give them as much respect and credit for their journey ahead.
I thought you were saying you're treading carefully because of the great big fan base they have, and I'm like, mate,
Nah, we're covered there.
Jesse, who have you got for the wooden spoon?
A couple of months ago, straight after the trade period, I had the Giants as well. But this preseason, when I started looking at it all, started comparing best 22s, and I looked at the Giants, and they've still got a lot of good seasoned veterans in that side. And then you look at someone like Hawthorn, who is going to be my prediction. And look, sound backline, but their midfield now is very young, and there's a lot resting on Newcombe shoulders, Warple shoulders, Will Day, and then their forward, their keys in particular, Lewis and Kaczynski, talented, but are these guys going to win games? So they always have a habit of proving me wrong, Hawthorn, so I'm certain I've got this wrong, but logically speaking, Hawks for the spoon.
Didn't really show up for their preseason game with the Cats as well, so you might be onto something there. Jake, who have you got finishing last this season?
No, exactly the same. Hawthorn for me. Basically the same argument. The best 22 is exciting on paper. There's a lot of good youngsters, but I reckon it's the 1 year they just have a down year, and then they'll slowly pick themselves up and get more experience, because I think they're still one of the least experienced teams in the comp. So down year for the Hawks, but they'll be on the up.
Might be a bit of a rough year for Sammy Mitchell then. Second year Blues, he's going to go through it if they finish last. Rogie, who have you got finishing last?
Well, we got the Hawks and the Giants. Everyone, they know where they're at. They're well aware and they can play like it. But I think the team that'll finish on the bottom of the ladder is a team that might think they're a bit better than what they are. They've got the new coach. They've got a couple of gun recruits in, but I reckon it's the St Kilda Football Club are going to capitulate, bang, straight down to the bottom, and Roscoe may be Gonski by season 2024.
Jake, what have you got to say about that? That's an attack on your club.
That's his opinion, mate. It's just an opinion. It's not fact yet, so we'll see what happens.
No, I do love Ross the Boss. I think he'll be there for a long time. But the stain is their forward line has just vanished in front of our eyes, evaporated into thin air with injuries. So I think that they'll struggle early on, and it might not hold them in good stead for later on in the season.
Let's go for a team that's set to rise. There's a few that I think people might say, but I'm really interested to hear your opinion. Jake, why don't you kick us off with a team that's set to rise?
Yeah, I alluded to it earlier, but I think the Gold Coast, I think it's their time. I think they've got a very good list. Like I said, I think Tuke Miller leads from the front magnificently. He's a gun player, but then also their forward line found a few different avenues last year in the absence of Ben King, but he's back. So I think that him with Marbio Chol is going to be a very, very dangerous duo. And then they've got some very good smalls and good ruck stocks, good midfield. The back line, still a bit of work to do, but it's getting there. So I think overall, if they don't push for the 8, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, it could be that time. They might break the duck and finally sneak their way into finals. Terry, who have you got a team that's on the rise?
There's no clearer answer to this than my own. The Blues, mate. Yeah. This is the one. This is it. How much more do we have to wait? This is it. We've got the pain from last year to spur us on, that emotional hook. We're ready. This is it.
How could there be any other answer than the Blue Baggies? We've been in the wilderness, the darkness for far too long. It's time for us to see the light. Top 4 for the Blue Baggies, baby.
I want to see, if the Pies can follow up their season, if the Tigers can sort of follow up their season, if the D's can hang around, and then the Blues break through. That first week of finals with some pretty big Victorian teams. I know Melbourne probably aren't at that level yet of being a big Victorian team, but we're talking 80, 90,000 towards the back end of that season if all those teams are in contention. So that's super exciting. Jesse, who have you got on the rise?
Well, I did have the Blues in my grand final, but because 2 other people have nominated them, I will throw a different one out there. I feel like Port Adelaide will be good again this year, and I saw them up close, and yes, it was a pre-season game, but I'm just looking through their side, and you got Leah down back, some good medium defenders. Their midfield is really strong. Boak is, never going to retire. Ollie Wines, you guys, Rosie, Dersma, Butters, now guys about to break out. And then, their tall talent is good as well with Dixon, but you've also got Junior Rioli and Orazio, who barely played last year. So I think that's a very strong, even, well-rounded best 22, and I just cannot see this side missing the finals again. So that's kind of a big call, but I'm going to say Port.
Geez, I think the pair will be absolutely pumped with that. I think their forward line is just about to mature. Like, I think we've taken for granted the age of like Georgiadis and Marshall. So yeah, if they can mature, they can go to the next level. My team set to rise. I know that they got tipped for the wooden spoon a couple of times here, but I'm pretty bullish about the Hawks. I know that they've gone younger this year than they were like last year. They've gotten rid of a lot of experience, but I think that midfield of Newcomb, Connor McDonald, Ward, Cooper Stevens, who's like a mature age sort of player coming in from Geelong, I feel like they could potentially rise, maybe a little bit, maybe not the 8, but I reckon they could be around. I reckon halfway through the year, the Hawks will be sort of in and around the 8. That's my big bold prediction. Let's go on to a team set to fall. Now, I'm going to kick things off, and the Bulldogs, I feel like they're in no man's land. I feel like they've been there for a while. I know that they're quite young in key areas, like their key forwards are quite young, their key backs, like your Sam Darcy and whatnot, are quite young. They've gotten rid of like Josh Dunkley, who I think is one of their better players. Lockie Hunter, I never really liked, but since seeing him in the red and blue, he's an absolute star, and what a loss for that club. And yeah, I just feel like they've been in no man's land for a little while. They might slip. They might have a bit of a rough one this year. Terry, who do you think might fall this season?
This has nothing to do with round 23, but the Pies.
Wow.
Nothing whatsoever to do with round 23. I still think they're going to make the 8. I just don't think they're a top 4 side. And probably an easy decision, but I think they'll slide a little bit and put themselves towards the bottom of the 8 where they belong.
Their season's going to be interesting where, like, if they finish top 4 again, I wouldn't be surprised. And if they finished out of the 8, I almost wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, Jesse, who do you think might have a bit of a slide this year?
Now, I don't think people are going to take this answer seriously as I'm a West Coast fan, but I actually think this is the year Fremantle dip out of the finals, probably just for a year. But
another rival.
I'll make the case for it. They have lost some goals in Rory Love leaving, and structurally that's always been a bit of an issue for them. Will Fife cover that gap? I'm not sure. But for me, it's more looking at the other teams around that top 10, and I really think it's going to be competitive. So I've named Port Adelaide and Carlton jumping into the 8. And Fremantle's the one that dips out for me. It's not a long-term problem. They'll probably their window's still open, so to speak, but this is the year they dip out for 1 year.
Yeah, that's not a bad call. A little bit of a consolidation year for the Dockers before they really make their charge up the ladder. Rog, who do you reckon might slide this season?
Yeah, I think that we know that success is not linear, so I think this team will dip out and then come back in. But I think with all the teams that have improved with recruits and whatnot and natural development, I think the Swannies might slide their way on out the 8, which I know is big to say because the Swans never miss the 8, but Buddy's another year older. Logan McDonald probably not ready yet to take on that mantle fully. And I think they haven't really added much in the off-season, and the trauma of that grand final loss might haunt them for just this one season before, as Sydney always do, they bounce back into the 8.
Yeah, I don't think we've really seen teams get annihilated in a grand final bounce back better the next season. But I think if there's ever like a culture and a club to do it, it might be the Swans, but that's a pretty good call by you, Rog. Jake, who have you got sliding down the ladder?
I got the Cats. No, I don't, mate. Sorry. I wish.
Sorry, you got me
I
there.
wish.
I got excited.
I got the doggies. Just because I feel like if they didn't sneak into the finals thanks to the Blues last year, we wouldn't really be looking at them as this top 8 contender, top 4 contender. It just kind of papered over the cracks a little bit. And I think with their style of football, I think that a lot of people have found them out. So it's up to them to really change the way they play, that possession, chip it around football. And they haven't really strengthened in the off-season as much as I probably was looking at them to do. So I think, they're one of the clubs that when you play them, you know what you're going to get. And I think teams are going to combat that pretty well.
All right, lads, let's pick a team that you're most excited to watch that isn't your own. Rog, what's a team that you're really excited to watch in 2023?
Oh, there's one team in particular I cannot wait to watch every single game, and that's the team that I happen to hate with every fibre of my body. That's the Essendon Football Club, because I think that they will be bottom 4, no good. See you later, sayonara, and I can't wait to watch them get pumped round after round, week after week, and cry themselves to sleep.
So Brad Scott's not going to take them to the promised land just yet?
No, not quite yet. Possibly not ever if my dreams do come true.
Jeez, that is savage. The Essendon faithful, if they start stringing a couple of games together, they will come for you. So I hope you know what you've just invited into your life. But Terry, what's a team besides the Blues that you're excited to watch this season?
I fell in love with Port Adelaide back in 2014. And I haven't stopped since. It's like a guilty pleasure. I love the way they go about it. Love their club. Love the way they speak so honestly in all interviews, no matter who's talking. And I'm a big fan.
Jeez, I like that. Going to Adelaide Oval and being at a Port Adelaide game, it is unbelievable the atmosphere that they get. Jesse, who do you think is one of your favourite teams to watch besides the West Coast Eagles?
I'm intrigued by Gold Coast this year, and to be fair, they're a pretty easy second team, because up to this point they've never been a threat to anyone. I say that, and they just they beat us last year. But I'm intrigued to see how that development goes. The training wheels are officially off for Stewie Dew. It's time to deliver, or at least get close to finals. And they got some great young players: Raul, Anderson, King's back in the side. I love Lukosius. I'll be watching them with interest.
Yeah, this might not be a favourable answer with the Sainers out there, but Collingwood. I really, especially last year, I don't know if it's the club as a whole or just the games they were in, but every week they were playing in thrillers, and you love watching footy where it's ebbs and flows in momentum. They get a 20-point lead, another team hits the front, then they keep going, and they've got this never say die attitude. You just kind of envy that a little bit, the way they played it last year, and they probably should have made a granny. So Collingwood for me.
Well, the Pies were going to be my answer, but I might switch it up. There's a team that's really, really consistent every week. I really enjoy watching them. They play mainly Sundays 1:10, and I just think they're just a very exciting outfit, and it's the Casey Demons for mine. They won the flag last year in the VFL. Jacob Van Rooyen runs around every week, and besides Melbourne, I really have enjoyed what they've produced for me over the last season and a bit. What are your thoughts on that, Rogie?
Yeah, mate, that's I can't say I'm surprised, to be honest, let's put it that way. And the funniest bit about it is that you are not lying. You would probably be the only bloke in this country that watches every single game of the ones and the twos. So it's a credit to you, mate.
A little bit nuffy mode. Lads, what fake trade would you make for your team this season to strengthen them? Terry, what fake trade would you make for the Blues?
So we all know that the Blues have the two key pillars in Harry and Charlie, and that's awesome, and I don't take that for granted. The one thing we haven't quite solidified is that third forward. So I've always been a Toby Green fan. I think if we could manufacture a Toby Green into our forward line, we would genuinely be unstoppable.
100%. He is a goal-kicking machine. Jake, who would you bring to the Sainers this season?
With the injuries that we've got in that tall man department, Kingy's down, Jack Hayes is down, Membry's down. We've well publicised. The back line's pretty short with Wilkie and Dukes there, and we need some tools to stand up. I'm throwing a first rounder at Terry, and I want your boy TDK coming back the other way.
Oh, that's a great answer.
What do you reckon, Tez?
Deal.
You want a first rounder for that? Just for the need, mate. We need it. We need it desperately.
Terry, what the hell are you talking about, mate? You're parting with TDK for a first rounder to St Kilda. I'm glad you're not in charge of the football. No, Wayno.
Sauce is going to work his magic, mate. That's why he came over.
You reckon it'll be pick one this year, Connor? So you're all good.
I'm right with you there, Terry. We do need some help in the forward line because we got Charlie, we got Harry. We need some smalls and some mids. So I'm willing to part with a future fifth rounder and bring me in Jack Ginnivan. I want the personality, the flair. I'm jealous watching the Pies supporters. They get to watch this bloke run around, have the time of his life with his blonde hair. I want that energy in the Carlton forward line to lift the lid off 100,000 at the G in the last week in September.
Jesse, who would you bring in to the West Coast Eagles?
Well, it's hard to find an area of the field we don't need to strengthen right now. But I'm looking on the market for a young key forward, ideal if they're West Australian. I'm going to go Logan McDonald from Sydney. I hope we poach him. Out of contract next year, but hypothetically this year would be great. Future Josh Kennedy, and he can pair up with Allen for the next 10 years.
Jeez, that would be an unbelievable coup. You just feel like I don't know, the Sydney Swans, they don't really lose players, but it's another WA talent that's definitely a watch because they all seem to want to come home. My trade would be, and this is from the heart, so my Instagram, little plug, is KDOS38 because of Jeremy Howe. Now, he went to the Pies and he hasn't seen a whole heap of success just yet. We went all the way in 2021 without him. I feel like he's sort of got a bit of FOMO. I feel like he's missing out, and I would love to get Jeremy Howe back at the Melbourne Footy Club, swooping around in defence. He can complement May and Lever. He can jump on their heads. And yeah, just have Howie back in the red and blue would be unbelievable. We all know that there's one game that we're all looking forward to. You see it come up in the fixtures and you circle it. What is one game that you're really excited to attend this season? Terry, what's the game for you?
It's finals round 1. Welcome to the MCG. That's what it is. It'll be the Blues and the Pies at the MCG elimination final. That's what it'll be.
Bit of revenge, please, please. I still have nightmares from last round.
That would be absolutely enormous. Rogie, what's a game that you circle every year?
Well, this is one that I'm circling for the first time this year. It is my Blue Baggies in the Good Friday game, but not so much for Carlton v North Melbourne. I can't wait to finally see Harry Mackay up against Ben Mackay. Don't know if it would have happened ever where you have two identical twin brothers going up against each other, especially when they're just about 7 foot tall. So I cannot wait to see the big colossuses go toe to toe.
Have they've never played each other yet, have they?
Never once. Everyone still jokes about whether they are in fact the same person. I don't believe they are, but we'll see it for real on Good Friday.
Yeah, good call. Jake, what game have you got penciled in?
Couple of options here, but being our 150th year at the Footy Club, big anniversary year, round 3 against the Bombers at the MCG, the 150th. It's a bit of a worry that it lands on April 1st, so I'm just hoping that doesn't really mix up in the actual footy, but you know, one premiership, but love the club, and yeah, can't wait to go and represent the colours for the 150 in round 3.
Is that 150 years since the flag?
Hey!
Whack!
Whack, nah.
Oh,
Play on.
Yeah, that stung, that hurt.
That was a half volley. Jesse, what game are you excited to attend this season?
Well, as an Eagles fan, you know, looking through the fixture, it's hard to just pick one. You know, it's blockbuster after blockbuster. North Melbourne round 1 at Marvel, that stands out. Round 2 GWS at Optus. But I'll say round 3, I'll go the easy option. The first derby, it's away. I don't think we'll be Fremantle, but I think we'll be annoying enough to make it a good game. So we'll just call it derby.
It's a bit bizarre where like West Coast had the monopoly over the derbies for a long time, and now it doesn't seem like it feels like Freo's going to have the reign for the next 3 or 4 years. It's a bit weird how it's like sort of one team or the other. Do you reckon it'll be a close clash this season?
Yeah, but not because we'll be close to them in quality, to be honest. I think we're much improved, but I think the ego will take over and the atmosphere will take over, and it'll be a close game, but Fremantle will probably be better this year.
The game that I'm most looking forward to attend, and it's one of my favourite games to go to every year, is Anzac Day Eve. So it's the D's and the Tigers every season. So it's the game before the Collingwood and Essendon Anzac Day game. It's the night match. They do the ceremony with the lighting of the eternal flame, and they get the lights going, and it's an unbelievable spectacle, and it's normally a good contest. So knowing that the D's and the Tigers should be in and around it this season, there should be 80,000 plus at the MCG for the Anzac Day Eve clash. So I'm really looking forward to that one. All right, lads, let's get into some silly ones. So we've got some awards to predict. And the first one, we've got the Cam Zurhaar Award. What player becomes the biggest breakout social media star? Now I'm going to kick things off there's been a little bit of chatter over the last week or so that Tom Green is in the mood for a bit of a relationship, and he sort of made some inquiries about Dua Lipa's availability. So I think if Tom Green lands Dua Lipa, he's going to get millions of followers. So I think Tom Green will be the breakout social media star, sort of Kardashian style. Jake, who have you got for the breakout social media star?
Yeah, at the Saints, we love a mullet. We've got Sinks, the G-Train, but Josh Rochelle, he rocks a pretty sick mullet. So I reckon even if his mullet just had an Instagram page for like itself, it would get more followers than all of us put together. So I reckon Rochelle's mullet is a chance this year.
I've gone Archie Perkins. This kid is just a poster boy waiting to happen, and he hasn't really done much on a footy field yet. Good young player. I reckon if he takes that next step this year, watch his Instagram follow account blow up.
Yeah, he's a good-looking boy, Archie Perkins. He's, he looks like he's primed to be that next social media star. Terry, who have you got?
So I've got Nick Dacos. Now, I know he's got a pretty big following already, but just looking at the trajectory of Baslenka and how that went, I think Nick Dacos will be even better as a player, and I actually think he'll blow up even more on the social media. So Nick Dacos for me.
He probably should have been All-Australian last year, but he could just do anything this season, Nick Dacos. Rogie, who's going to break out on the socials?
Well, Terry, Bailey Smith didn't blow up because he's a guard midfielder. He blew up because he is the sexiest man on the planet. If you could build yourself in the womb, he would be exactly how you would have constructed yourself. And I noticed a man of which I had the same feelings. I looked at him and I just thought, you are pretty hot. And that's the number one draft pick, Aaron Cadman. He uploaded a picture with his shirt off on the beach. He was looking like he was carved out of stone. And I think this man is the next idol for all, not just the women, all the men out there as well.
Oh, he's going to have a lot of fun up in Sydney, the big Cad man. He will be a superstar. This is called the Curry Chips Award, and it's named after the Curry Chips van at Adelaide Oval. So when I go over for Gather Round, I'm going to be seeking this van out because that just sounds like a meal and a half. We want to know what underrated or venue-specific footy food are you excited to have this season? I'm going to kick things off. I think a new deal went down over the pre-season at the MCG regarding the licensing over their beverages. And I believe at the MCG this year, Pepsi Max will be in the refrigerators, and I love a Pepsi Max. That's a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. So I'm going to be ripping into the Pepsi Maxes this year with my pie and chips. Terry, what's your guilty pleasure, or what's your favourite footy food?
So I actually don't eat much at the footy because I generally feel sick from the game, no matter what's happening. Although last year, the gammy chicken at the MCG, it got me a couple of times. So I might go again for the gammy chicken.
Yeah, that's a great call. Jesse, what are you going to be tucking into?
There's this chicken schnitzel sandwich at Optus Stadium that has eluded me for 2 years. I went to a Fremantle game, sat in a different spot and walked straight up to the first little cafeteria and bought one, and it was the most amazing experience, and ever since I've never found it. And there's probably people watching this that go to Optus and are like, yeah, it's in the same spot every time, mate, but the hunt continues.
Jeez, it sounds like you're on a journey. Like you're traveling over the hills and finding like a secret key just to find this schnitter roll. But hopefully you fulfill it and you get to slam it down. Rogie, what are you going to be smashing at the footy?
Nah, I'm taking a hardline protest to this question because there was a time in my life where I'd go, I'd have a pie, I'd have the chips, I'd have the time of my life. Fast forward 5 years and I am now a vegetarian, and there is nothing for the veggies out there unless you want to just nibble on some chips. You might, if you're lucky, get a veggie pasty that's been sitting there for the past 5 hours. Other than that, nada. Is it that hard to bring in a fumo salad or just anything? So until they fix this up for people like me, no answer here.
I think that serves you right. If you're looking around for a falafel wrap at the footy, you deserve to have it few and far between. Jake,
yeah.
What are you going to tuck into? Oh no.
Speaking of falafel wraps,
oh no.
This is a place. I don't eat much of the footy as well, by the way. I'm a bit closer on the veggie side at the moment, and there's this place at Giant Stadium. So ironically, it's a stadium I rarely go to, but I went there a couple of years ago. And there's this place called Kebabish. Got the name here, a little bit of a plug for them. Decent, pita breads, wraps, goslems, like pastries and stuff. Vegetarians, that's where you should go, mate. So every week, just go to Giant Stadium and you're set.
I'll be sure to book my tickets.
Geez, now we're talking. That sounds like a nice operation. My girlfriend
Hang
actually
on,
goes to the...
you just said no bueno on the falafel wrap, and now you're saying it sounds delicious.
Yeah, he's been convinced.
That one sounds fresh and like out of the van. Like that sounds delicious. My girlfriend will go up and down the levels at the MCG to find the refrigerated falafel wrap that's been sitting there for a little while, just because it's a little bit healthier. And I just say, look, the 4 and 20. It's just not hard to tuck into a 4 and 20 at the footy. This one is one of my favourites that I'm really excited to get into, and it is the new Trenkley Award. So Josh Dunkley and Adam Treloar had a bromance when they played together over the last couple of seasons. I want to know what the new AFL bromance will be. I'm going to kick things off, and it started a little bit frosty between these two, but they are just a match made in heaven now. It's Kane Cornes and Jason Horne-Francis. Now last year, Cornesy was really getting into the Hornet about some of his professionalism and some of his habits and the ice baths and the training standards. And now Kane Cornes can't get enough of the great man. So I think, Kane Cornes and Jason Horne-Francis are the new AFL bromance. Rog, who have you got being a bit of a bromance this season?
Well, I think that this one's already decided, boys, because I don't know if you're aware, but Jackie Ginnivan has as many followers as he could want, a few 100,000. He used to follow a couple thousand people, and then he decided to unfollow all of them. 0 followers. I checked back on his profile the other day. He's only following 3 people, one of them being Trent Bianco. So I reckon Jack Ginnivan and Trent Bianco, if they're that tight where he's willing to follow him when he follows nobody else, I reckon that's a bromance if there ever was one.
That is a bromance and a half. 2 young superstars. Terry, who have you got taking home the Trenkley Award this season?
So I'm a firm believer that all of the greatest relationships start with a little bit of frost. Now, I think Sicily and Granger Barras have had an interesting pre-season. And I think, 2 big alphas getting in the room, showing each other that they really do care. I think by the end of the year, they're going to actually be the best of friends and be the greatest bromance in the league.
Yeah, that's great. Just waxing in defence, both of them. Both sort of very competitive, big, scary type key defenders. That's a great call. Jesse, who have you got for the Trenkley Award, the biggest bromance of the AFL this season?
Well, I've been trying for years to get Jesse from True Footy and Luke Shuey over the line, but unfortunately he just hasn't really responded to any of my emails. So I reckon this is the year he finally starts a podcast with me.
That would be all time. We need to get that. We need to get that collab going. Jake, who have you got as the biggest bromance of the AFL this season?
Yeah, I took this quite literally, to be honest. There was a few options, but I looked at Tom McCartan, Paddy McCartan last year in the back line, just tandem, worked beautifully. Brothermance. But I've gone with the Henry brothers as well, Geelong now. They're reunited. There's going to be a nice vibe there. They're my pick.
Yeah, that's a great call. I'm surprised no one said Gawn and Grundy. They're starting to wax. They're starting to comment on each other on the socials. So hopefully, from my point of view, that could be a bromance that flourishes throughout the season. Lads, this has been unbelievable. Really appreciate all your time. All your links to your YouTube channels will be down in the description below. Thanks so much for hopping on and doing the AFL predictions with me.